Uh-oh, I went live. I hit the wrong button. So here, let me give you guys this real quick.
Hey, Ron, where are you? Where is Ron right now? You done messed up, Ron!
All right, Ron is right here. That's actually the first time I've hit the wrong button. Okay, so let's see. I have a bunch of stuff I want to talk about today. And the first one is, I just saw this. This is an excerpt from a video that was just published today to a YouTube channel called Ring of Fire. Now, guys, I can't tell if this program is far right or far left. I can't tell if they're pro-religion or anti-religious because I haven't watched the whole video yet. I kind of wanted to watch it live with you guys. And on my channel, I've always had a policy of, no partisan politics on this channel. And I'm going to keep to that, but I think I'm going to amend it slightly. I'm not going to provide or comment in a partisan political way, but I'm going to continue to feature Scientology content, no matter who it comes from, far left, far right, anywhere in the middle, because that's what my channel is here for. So I'm I don't know, they could bust out with some really crazy stuff in the video that I'm about to show, but I'm showing it to you because I want you to see what they have to say about Scientology and David Miscavige. And anyway, this whole video is only 5 minutes long. I'll provide some commentary during it. And then afterwards, I'm really going to explain why I think it's important for Scientologists, particularly the ones who are starting to question things or a little bit under the radar, to see the reputation that Scientology has on both sides of the aisle and at every point on the religious or political spectrum. So I've shared this in a way you guys should be able to hear this audio. Just confirm for me in the chat that you can once I've started this. And let's take a look at this.
Church of Scientology. A leader at the Church of Scientology has disappeared after authorities tried to serve him with a child trafficking lawsuit. Farron, you and I have done plenty of stories on this cult of crazies. That's what it is. It's not a church. It's not a religious organization. It is a cult of maniacs. And nevertheless, we give them a tax break. They don't have to pay taxes. Now, this guy that's running the entire organization is on the run. He's hiding out because of this lawsuit that's been brought by a Florida lawyer down in South Florida. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we talked about the lawsuit really just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. You have these children, some as young as 5 and 6 years old. They get pulled into the church with their families, and I don't want to call it a church. The Scientologists put them to work scrubbing boats, cleaning hotel rooms, doing all kinds of horrible things for no pay at all, basically using them as child labor.
So real quick, what he's talking about specifically is, there's currently a civil lawsuit against David Miscavige and a handful of Scientology organizations, including the Free Winds, the flagship service organization. And this lawsuit has been brought by 3 former Scientologists, 3 former Sea Org members, Valeska Paris, Gawain Baxter, and Laura Baxter, who were all brought into Scientology and the Sea Organization. So the Sea Organization used to have like a sub section of the Sea Organization called the Cadet Organization, where they would stick children of Sea Org members, and these kids would be put to work as early as 5 and 6 years old. And I think that's what he's referencing, is he has familiarized himself with some of the details of the Paris Baxter lawsuit, which is really cool to hear. All right, let's keep going.
They'll take away any documents they have so that they cannot escape. They're trapping these people. It is human trafficking, just through an organization that most people in this country somehow view as legit.
I would question whether most people in this country view Scientology as legit, but that's okay. Everyone makes mistakes.
It's disturbing.
Okay, so it starts in California. You would, no surprise there. It's the hub of crazy. So it starts in California. And
so he says California is the hub of crazy. Okay, so generally speaking, you would say that if you were on the right, but I went to the merch store for this YouTube channel and it's all far left merch. I'm terribly confused, and I didn't bother to research the history of either of these guys because I just genuinely don't care. But I'm a little confused. Maybe you guys can jump into the comment section. Are you already familiar with this channel? Are you already familiar with these guys? Like, where are these guys coming from, politically speaking? Save me a little bit of research, maybe.
Then Florida, second hub of crazy, it builds its second big monstrosity of an organization in Florida. But as it's doing it, you understand what they're doing as they build is you brought into Scientology, you give me everything you've got. You may not have any contact with your family. If you have an inheritance, you give it to me. A lot of the money they make is from that. The second big bit of money is they don't pay taxes on anything. Yeah. Because for some reason it's been determined that there's somehow a religion. It is a cult of crazy. What I think is interesting, L. Ron Hubbard, who started this whole thing, started on a pretty good premise, and that is the American and international psychology has become a dirt pit, that it doesn't work. It's, we've made it into something that it's not, that it shouldn't be. So he starts attacking the area of psychology, the discipline of psychology, and he builds his entire structure around that. L. Ron Hubbard was the guy. He ends up spending his life on a boat because he's running from the law all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And Sea Org.
Well,
so here's what's funny. Like, Scientologists are, of course, all familiar with the fact that in 1967, L. Ron Hubbard created the Sea Organization, and that for the next, from 67 to, was it 74? I'm not really good with these dates. I want to say it was 74, 75 that they moved the operation that had been based on ships, and they moved it to shore in, first Daytona, Florida, but then eventually moved to Clearwater, Florida. And that's what you have the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, Florida right now. Scientologists are aware that L. Ron Hubbard went essentially to sea. They do not understand that one of the large motivations for L. Ron Hubbard doing that was that he was in trouble with a number of governments of the world. So if a Scientologist, happens to stumble upon something like this, and they hear a program like this say something like that, they're like cult programming. The propaganda they've been fed allows them to instantly dismiss this entire video as, he's just fallen for suppressive propaganda. When in fact, what they're saying in this program is the actual truth. It's just that Scientologists don't know that. And it's very hard for them to believe something like that. But it is, in fact, the truth. It is one of the main reasons Hubbard went to sea. It is one of the reasons Hubbard said it was so important to remain Fabian. No one can find out where you are. It's because he just literally was on the run from governments who wanted to find out where he was.
And another part of it too is that, we talk about how we in the U.S. give them this tax exempt status. In most countries in Europe don't even recognize it as a religion anymore. Exactly. They have stripped them of any status they may have had because they understand this isn't a religion. You're not even really praying to a deity of any kind. You don't really believe in anything.
L. Ron Hubbard is their deity.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys know most Scientologists in the United States don't actually fully understand that the majority of countries do not recognize Scientology as tax exempt, as a legitimate, bona fide nonprofit entity that operates for the public good. Even in the United Kingdom, Scientology, in the UK, Scientology does not have tax exempt status. In the UK, there's a public benefit test. And in Mike Rinder's book, A Billion Years, he talks about how Scientology used Tom Cruise to heavily lobby the authorities in the UK to rule that Scientology served the public benefit and therefore would qualify as tax exemption. And even despite the best efforts of Tommy Cruise himself, the UK government refuses to recognize Scientology as tax exempt. Again, it's like that's great news. Scientologists, believe it or not, don't even know that.
I mean, if you're going to have a deity, it's L. Ron Hubbard, who, by the way, was always having to run because he had so many fraud cases against him. Yeah. He criminal fraud cases against him that he had to live on a boat, and he started something called Sea Org. And this whole thing is where we are. I would think that that's where we're going to find David. Yeah. David is on the run right now because he understands that these charges are big.
David's right here in Clearwater, Florida, y'all. David's right here in Clearwater, Florida, where I live. He just hosted the New Year's event on December 31st at the Fort Harrison Hotel in the auditorium. In fact, I had advance notice from more than one spy inside of Scientology that he was going to be holding that event. Once he showed up, the text messages and the phone calls started coming in. Dave's here, send the process servers. Dave has been, he uses the fact that he can travel. He can travel from building to building within the Scientology bubble here in Clearwater, Florida, without exposing himself at all to the outside world. And when people try to serve him in Florida, Scientology will go, "What? David Miscavige is a resident of California." And if you try to serve him in California, they'll go, "What? Everybody knows that David Miscavige has been busy in Clearwater, Florida." It's a little ridiculous. So on January 20th in a federal courthouse in Tampa, there's going to be a hearing in this lawsuit, in this trafficking lawsuit against David Miscavige. And the purpose of the hearing will specifically be to see whether the judge is going to rule that David Miscavige is now considered served through the Secretary of the State of Florida. And if he does rule, if the judge rules on January 20th that he's served, we should start taking bets on how quickly and for how much money Scientology offers to settle this lawsuit. Because after Miscavige has been served, the next item on the table is getting him deposed. Scientology will do literally anything to prevent David Miscavige from being deposed. There's another thing I should mention here. Most people do not know this. Scientology has never in its history won a jury trial. Whenever you hear of Scientology winning a lawsuit or winning a legal action, what you're hearing about is they have either gotten a judge to throw out a suit because of jurisdiction, or on essentially technicalities. Scientology has never won a jury trial. And that's why they will do anything to avoid a jury trial. And people who bring civil suits against Scientology might keep this in mind, because the result of a civil suit can really only ever be monetary. Essentially, it's civil, it's not criminal. No one's going to jail. No one's being found guilty of a crime in a civil lawsuit. And so somebody might go, well, if the end result of a civil lawsuit is only going to be money anyway, then what's wrong with settling? There's an argument that could be made. There's nothing wrong with settling. Do as much damage to Scientology financially as you can. But realize the reason they want to settle with you now is because they know they will lose the jury trial. And whatever they're going to settle with you for now is probably pennies on the dollar compared to what an actual jury will award you after a trial. So it's really, it's kind of a fine line. Lawsuits can take years. They can be soul crushing. But even though a civil lawsuit can only ever result really in financial damage, financial settlements, or financial, a settlement is not what you call it when the jury makes the decision. A ruling. I don't know. I just grew up in a cult, guys. I don't know these things. It's just something to consider. Scientology's literally never won a jury trial. Can you believe that? Criminal, civil, either one. All right, let's keep going here.
David, who, by the way, actually served as the best man for one of Tom Cruise's weddings. I think his second wedding, maybe.
Okay, so it's a real
He was actually the best man at all three of Tom Cruise's weddings, to the best of my knowledge.
easy solution. And here's what I hope happens. You can yank their tax exemption. You can get judgments against them. This is exactly what we're doing with Iran in the terrorist cases. They have a lot of holdings all over the world, a lot of them in the United States. So we get judgments against them for what took place with terror groups that have killed American citizens. So we get judgments against them. We sell their property. We get possession of their bank accounts. And so there's all these things that we're able to do if somebody would show enough courage and just pull the trigger on this. And it doesn't have to be a criminal event. If this civil case turns out to be what I think it is, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, and I think people should understand how serious it is. If it wasn't serious, this guy wouldn't be on the run right now trying to evade authorities. I mean, they went to his office and security refused to let them in to just serve the lawsuit.
Yeah. 37 times.
Yeah, 37 times. So he knows he's done for.
Yeah, let's hope they get him. But more importantly, let's hope they close this cult of crazies down, because that's all it is. It's just taking advantage of people all over the world right now. Thank you for joining me. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go. So Miscavige is really on the run in this case, not because the exact complaint in the case is like exceptionally horrifying from his point of view. It's that the way this case has been put together and presented in the complaint filed, and the way the plaintiff's attorneys have gone about really doing the hard work required in order to get the judge to eventually rule that Miscavige has been served. It's been handled in such a way that Miscavige has never actually been closer to actually being deposed. That's what he's terrified of. Once you get a guy like Miscavige, who really has retained power in Scientology through a mountain of lies about L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, lies about something like the fact that Miscavige lies about whether Hubbard picked Miscavige to take over Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard did not pick David Miscavige to take over Scientology. If Miscavige gets deposed in this suit, I believe the lawyers can ask him even questions about that. There's other things about the circumstances of L. Ron Hubbard's death. Well, whether L. Ron Hubbard left behind any upper OT levels. And, you know, under the expert guidance and consultation of people who really know what they're doing and know what they're talking about as far as that era of Scientology, like Mike Rinder, the plaintiff's attorneys in this case are going to have devastating questions for Miscavige to answer under oath. It is the deposition that Miscavige is terrified of, not necessarily the specific complaint in this specific case. And, you know, real kudos to the lawyers for really doing the hard work to get everything to the point right now where we're literally less than 2 weeks away from Miscavige possibly being ruled officially served in a lawsuit for the first time, maybe ever. Maybe someone has a little more knowledge of the history of Scientology's litigation can correct me whether Miscavige has ever been served in a case. But even if he was served, I do not believe he's ever been deposed. So this is a really big deal, and I'm glad to see it getting exposure on. I mean, this is a large YouTube channel. They have almost 1 million subscribers. And at first, maybe it's my own bias, just due to the color scheme of the channel and the accent of the host, I figured this was a far right-wing channel. And I was all prepared to talk to you guys about why it's important for Scientology to see that even right-wing Christian groups are throwing them under the bus. And now I'm all confused. I can't tell where this guy lies on the political or the religious spectrum. So I'm gonna bite my tongue as far as that. All right, guys, I got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Some wild and crazy stuff. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And I'll be back with something else really soon, guys. Talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe